What happens when two powerhouse entertainers sit down for what should be a fun, breezy interview, but instead every answer becomes a minefield? What starts as playful banter quickly spirals into something nobody in that studio expected. The cameras kept rolling. The audience sat in stunned silence, and by the end, security had to get involved. This is the story of how Chloe Fineman got kicked off Kelly Clarkson's show after a clash that left everyone talking. Before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me what you think went down. Now let's dive in. The studio lights were bright, almost blinding, and the audience buzzed with excitement. Kelly Clarkson walked out first, greeted by roaring applause, waving with that familiar warmth people had come to expect. She settled into her chair, relaxed and smiling, completely at home. Across from her sat Chloe Fineman, effortlessly cool in a vintage blazer and jeans, her posture confident but reserved. Producers had billed this as a dream pairing. Two comedy powerhouses talking impressions, creativity, and laughter. It was supposed to be easy. It was supposed to be fun. Kelly opened with praise, gushing about Chloe's ability to disappear into characters, naming impression after impression that had gone viral. Chloe smiled and thanked her, explaining that it was all about observation and hard work, not magic. But there was something guarded in her tone, as if she were holding something back. Kelly laughed it off, leaning forward with curiosity, and asked whether Chloe ever worried about crossing a line with her impressions. That's when the shift began. Chloe's smile tightened as she said her goal was always to celebrate people, not tear them down, and that she didn't worry about crossing lines, because she wasn't trying to be mean. Kelly nodded, still smiling, but gently pushed further, mentioning how some impressions can feel affectionate, while others feel pointed depending on who's watching. Chloe responded sharply, suggesting that if someone felt offended, that said more about them than about her comedy. A murmur rippled through the audience. Kelly blinked, clearly surprised, but kept her composure. She framed it as a general discussion, noting how comedy is subjective. Chloe tilted her head and asked whether Kelly was really speaking in general or hinting at something specific. The laughter in the room faded, replaced by tension so thick it felt physical. Kelly laughed awkwardly and tried to reassure her, but the warmth between them was cooling fast. Kelly's producer subtly gestured from offstage, signaling it was time to move on. But Kelly leaned forward instead. Her tone stayed friendly, but there was steel underneath as she asked about Chloe's impression of her on Saturday Night Live. The audience gasped. Chloe looked genuinely caught off guard, insisting she had never impersonated Kelly. And in that moment, what was meant to be a light interview, Kelly pressed the point, calmly at first, reminding Chloe of a weekend update, bit about daytime talk show hosts that many viewers believed was clearly modeled after her. Chloe shook her head, denying it outright, calling it a generic character. The studio fell silent. Kelly's smile cracked slightly as she explained that fans, social media, and even her own team had immediately recognized the impression as her. Chloe remained unmoved, repeating that she couldn't control what people saw in her work. The tension escalated quickly. Kelly laughed incredulously, pointing out the similarities. The bubbly energy, constant singing references, talking about kids, loving karaoke. Chloe accused her of projecting. The audience gasped again, louder this time. Kelly's eyes flashed as she said she wasn't projecting. She was asking a direct question. Chloe shot back that she was telling the truth, and that Kelly was choosing to take it personally. Suddenly, Kelly stood up and announced they needed a break. Chloe stood too, crossing her arms. What should have been a pause became a standoff. Kelly explained she'd invited Chloe for a fun conversation, not a defensive confrontation. Chloe fired back that Kelly had questioned her integrity from the start. Producers rushed in, urging them to take a moment, but neither woman was listening. They were locked in, staring each other down. When Kelly told Chloe that if she didn't want to be there, she could leave, the room froze. Chloe laughed sharply, said she was ready, and grabbed her bag. As she walked toward the edge of the stage, the audience sat frozen, unsure whether this was real or some kind of shocking bit. Chloe stopped, turned back, and delivered a cutting line about Kelly not being able to handle anyone who didn't flatter her. Then she walked off. Kelly stood there, stunned, watching Chloe disappear. Phones came out in the audience. The producer rushed on stage, whispering urgently, but Kelly brushed him off. Her face was flushed, her hands shaking as she told Chloe she didn't get to insult her and walk off her own show. Chloe stopped, turned back, and accused Kelly of twisting her words and making her the villain. The argument reignited instantly. Kelly said Chloe was being rude and dismissive. Chloe said she'd been ambushed on camera. Voices rose. The audience gasped repeatedly, watching two public personas crumble into raw emotion. This was no longer television polish. This was personal. The confrontation intensified as Chloe walked back toward center stage, accusing Kelly of inviting her only to confront her publicly and play the victim. Kelly looked genuinely shocked, insisting she'd been supportive and had praised Chloe repeatedly. Chloe laughed bitterly, saying the praise felt hollow once Kelly started questioning her intentions. Kelly's voice cracked as she insisted she was just trying to have an honest conversation. Chloe crossed her arms and accused Kelly of being mad about an impression she believed was about her. She claimed Kelly should have addressed it privately instead of ambushing her on television. Kelly shot back that she hadn't ambushed anyone, that she'd asked a question and been lied to. Chloe insisted again that the character wasn't about Kelly, adding that if the shoe fit, maybe Kelly should examine why. At that point, a producer stepped between them, saying none of this would air and urging them both to calm down. Kelly ignored him, demanding to know why Chloe thought it was okay to mock her and then deny it. Chloe accused Kelly of being obsessed with herself. Kelly's voice dropped dangerously low as she told Chloe to get out. When Kelly repeated it, louder, the reality set in. She was kicking Chloe off the show. Chloe looked stunned but defiant, accusing Kelly of revealing her true self beneath the bubbly image. Kelly responded that she didn't have to tolerate disrespect on her own stage. The argument spiraled, both women accusing each other of dishonesty, ego, and cruelty. Kelly reminded Chloe of her long career, her hard-earned success. Chloe responded calmly but coldly, saying she was simply standing up for herself. Kelly pointed to the exit and told her to do it somewhere else. The audience sat in absolute silence, listening to the hum of studio lights as neither woman backed down. Finally, Kelly warned Chloe to leave before security was called. Chloe dared her to do it, saying the fallout would expose everything. Tears streamed down Kelly's face as she told her producer to call security. Guards appeared within seconds. Chloe's confidence wavered for the first time, but she raised her hands and agreed to leave on her own. As Chloe walked toward the exit flanked by security, she stopped one last time and warned Kelly she would regret this. Not because of her, but because she'd pushed away someone willing to tell her the truth. The door closed behind Chloe with a heavy thud, and the studio fell silent. Kelly stood frozen, arms wrapped around herself, tears streaming down her face. She apologized softly to the audience for what they'd witnessed. Slow applause began, hesitant at first, then warmer as people tried to comfort her. Kelly wiped her face, forcing a small smile as she promised they would take a break and finish the show the right way. The cameras cut, but the tension lingered. Crew members whispered, phones buzzing. Everyone knew this moment wouldn't stay contained. Backstage, Kelly sat staring into nothing, barely responding to producers. The audience didn't know whether to leave or stay. Then, unexpectedly, the side door burst open and Chloe stormed back in, furious, saying she refused to let Kelly paint her as the villain. The argument reignited, louder and more personal than before. Accusations flew about ego, dishonesty, and fake personas. Kelly finally snapped, threatening security again. This time, there was no hesitation. Guards stepped in, and Chloe was escorted out for good. As she left, she warned Kelly she'd regret it. Kelly collapsed into herself, apologizing again to the audience as support slowly filled the room. Outside, Chloe sat in her car, gripping the steering wheel as tears finally fell. She'd stood her ground, but something felt irreparably broken. By the next day, clips and rumors would be everywhere, with fans choosing sides and dissecting every word. So what really caused this clash? Was it ego, misunderstanding, or two strong personalities colliding on live television? And should I make the next chapter or not?